Hi lovelies, you're welcome to Stayaka. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to cut this kissing print gown with shoulder, princess dart and basque waistline. So if this is something you are interested in, please watch this video till the end. Now I've gone ahead to determine my body measurement. So I rule a straight line here, which I labeled my shoulder line. From my shoulder line, I came down to my bust line. From my shoulder line, I came down to my under bust line. From my shoulder line, I came down to my waistline. Why from my waistline, I'm going to come down by 3 inches to get the basque waistline, okay? You can make use of 4 inches, but 3 inches is okay. Now, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2 here on my shoulder line. Then I will make use of 4 inches for the neck wideness. You can make use of 3 inches if that is what you want, okay? Now, from this 8 inches point here on the shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch to get the shoulder slope. Now I'll go ahead to connect the point like so. After doing that, the next thing I will do is to mark my armhole circumference divided by 2 from this my shoulder slope line here. I'll mark the point here, and then I'll also mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2 here just to get a straight line. Okay, now after doing that, I'll go ahead to connect it to my shoulder slope point like so. I'll also rule a straight line across like this to get my chest line. Now I'm going to go ahead and label this line my chest line. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to divide my armhole circumference divided by 2. I'll get the midpoint, and then from that midpoint I'll go in by half of an inch. The next thing is for me to take my bust circumference divided by 4 here on my chest line. Now I'll go ahead to connect my front armhole like so. After doing that, I'm going to come down to get the neckline. I'm going to be coming down by 2 inches. Then I will go ahead to connect it to the neck wideness I made use of, which is 4 inches. Now after doing that, I'm just going to outline the shoulder part here. Now I'm going to be dividing my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 inches divided by 2. I got 4 inches. Now from my bust line here, I'm going to mark that 4 inches all the way to the basque line. Now after marking that point, I'll go ahead to connect the points together like so, and then I'm going to label this my center front and this my side front. The next thing I'm going to do now is from my waistline, I'll mark half inch beside the darts. Okay, now I'll go ahead to connect it this way to the bust line. Okay, after doing that, I'm just going to extend it to the basque line, that is the dart legs. Okay, now from this my under bust line here on the center front, I will mark out half of an inch, while for the side, that is the side front, on the under bust line from the actual dart leg, I will mark 0.75. Okay, now I'll go ahead to connect it like so. Okay, now the next thing I'll do is to connect it like so to the actual that leg like this. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and connect it also like this to the bust line. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to divide what I have on my shoulder by 2. I'll get the midpoint. From that midpoint, I'm going to connect it to the dart leg on my bust line. Okay, now after connecting it, remember I'm going to measure what the dart intake that I have on my under bust line, which is 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to divide that 1.5 inches by 2, and I'm going to be having 0.75. So I'm going to mark it 0.75 here, 0.75 on this other side here. Okay, now I'll go ahead to connect it back to the dart leg on the bust line. Okay, so this is the shoulder that I'm taking. Okay, now this is 1.5 inches that I just took, so I'm going to be replacing it here from this my shoulder slope point. Okay, now if I don't replace this, I'm going to have shortage for the sleeve of this dress after I hold the shoulder dart. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and extend my shoulder slope line like so, and then I'll go in with my curve rule to reconnect the armhole. So this armhole is my new armhole. I'm not going to need this old armhole again. Okay, now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do, I already took my bust circumference here on my chest line divided by 4. I'm going to replace the dart intake I have here on my chest line. I'll replace it here. Now on my waistline, I'll take my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart intake I have on my under bust line on my waistline here like so. Then I'll go ahead to connect the two body points like so. So after doing that, below my bust line at the side, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches to get my side dart. Now this is the difference between my front half length and my back half length. It's difference of 1.5 inches that I usually take as my side dart. So I'm going to be closing this up, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and join these two dart leg together so I can get my basque waistline for this dress. So now I'll go ahead to connect the basque waistline like so, and then I'm going to be cutting this out. So after doing that, I'm going to cut through my bust line to close the side dart. Now I'll go in with my tape to tape this down. So if you notice, the cup is now pointy, okay? So just go ahead to use your scissors to reduce the pointiness of this bust area here. Okay, this is what I'm trying to explain here, because I already hold the side that's why it's too pointy. Okay, now I'll go ahead to replace whatever that I shortened from the side, and then I'll go ahead to cut this out. So after cutting this out, this is totally all for the front part of this gown. Okay, now when I hold my shoulder dart, I'm going to have my actual shoulder measurement. Okay, now you're going to cut the center front unfold, while the side front you're going to cut times 2 of it. Okay, now I'll proceed to cut out the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark the body measurement that I needed, and then I mark out 1 inch for the zipper allowance. You can make use of 1.5 inches for the zipper allowance. Okay, now I roll a straight line here, which I label my shoulder line. From my shoulder line, I mark my bust line. From my shoulder line, I came down to my back waist line of 16.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead to take my shoulder measurement here divided by 2. I'm going to make use of 4 inches for my neck wideness. Then from that 8 inches point, I'll come down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope. I'll go ahead to connect it like so. So I'm taking on my measurement from the zipper allowance line. Okay, now I'll go ahead from this point. I'll come down to my armhole circumference divided by 2. Then I'll go ahead to connect the point to my shoulder slope point. I'll also rule a straight line across. This line I will label my chest line. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 on my chest line, and then I'll connect the back armhole like so. So I'm just going to outline this to the shoulder slope point like this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take my dart measurement from the chest line all the way to the back waist line. So I'll go ahead to connect the point like so. Now on my back waistline here, I'm going to mark half inch beside the dart leg. Then I will go ahead to connect it like so to the chest line. After doing that, I'm going to take my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart intake of 1 inch. Now I'll go ahead to connect the body point like so. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to determine the depth of the back neckline. Okay, so I'm going to be covering this all the way to the bust line. This is how deep is going to be for me. Okay, now I'll go ahead, after using my pencil to mark it, I'm going to use my marker to outline it. So it depends on how deep you want this to be. So I'm connecting mine to the bust line. Okay, now I'm going to outline the back waistline. Then from the zipper allowance area on the back waistline, I'll go in by half of an inch and then connect it this way. So this is to avoid any zipper bulge, so I'm going to be cutting that part out. Now this is it for the back part. So you're going to cut times 2 of it. Okay, now I'll go ahead to cut this out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, share and like. Okay, so after doing that, while cutting on my fabric, I'm going to trace out the dart point on my fabric. Okay, now this is it for the back pattern and this is it for the front pattern. The next thing I'm going to do now is to teach you how to cut out the gathers for this dress. So make sure the two sides of the front and the back, they are aligning. Okay, now I'm going to keep this aside. So I have this my plain pattern paper and I'm going to teach you how to get the kissing print. Okay, now you can make use of 2 yards for the kissing print of this gown. You can make use of 2.5 yards. Okay, so now minus your front half waistline to get the full length of your gown. Okay, it will help you to know the length to use for your kissing print. Okay, now after getting it, and you remember this is the wideness should be 2 yards or 2.5 yards, go ahead and fold this by 2. So this part is going to be on fold. Okay, that is for the front, while for this part is going to be the back part, which is for the zipper area. Okay, now go ahead again to fold this by another 2. Now go ahead to notch that point here, then you open this up back like so. Now I'm going to remember I came down from the waistline for the front by 3 inches. Okay, so now from the center front of this my pattern paper I'm using to show you how to get the kissing print, I'll go down by that 3 inches and then I'll go in with my curve rule to connect it this way to that point that I notch on my pattern paper. Okay, so now I'll go ahead to cut this out. Now after cutting this out, this is how your material is going to be looking like. Okay, which is totally fine. Now you can go ahead to do your kissing print. So for this dress, the kissing print for the front is actually closer to the dart of the front. Okay, so just make sure that you are doing it the right way. Okay, now go ahead to form your kissing print. Then after doing your kissing print, you're going to notice that the front part is as if it's not aligning. So make sure when you are getting what you're going to use for your kissing print, that is the length, that you add about 1.5 inches extra. Okay, so you're going to trim out any excess that is not you're going to trim out any excess at the top part, then use the remaining one to fold the down part of your kissing print. Okay, that is the down part of this gown, and this is totally all for this tutorial. So another thing to take note of is to make sure that that point that you notch on the material you're using for your kissing print will be at the side of your dress, should stop at the side of your dress, then the remaining part is going towards the back part. Okay, so I mostly use this method when I don't have the time or the strength to start doing slash and spread method. So this is all for this tutorial. See you in my next tutorial. Bye and thanks for watching.